Friends, we're live on the first of my series of the Polish contribution to World War II ignored, marginalized, ignored, so forth. I just did one on the Polish code breakers. So this is my first one. I'm just going to do an overview. And I actually mentioned the Polish Americans too, because, and I'll tell you why, nobody knows Colonel Matt Urban. Colonel Matt Urban. Unknown. Anybody out there, if you're a Polish, relatively new immigrant or a long time or a Polish American person, please contact the post office. That's one thing. There's no postage stamp for him. There's one, I'm sure, for Audie Murphy, and there's one for Mickey and Pluto, and probably Bugs Bunny. But the Polish American warrior, Matt Lewis Urban, a United States Army lieutenant colonel and quote unquote one of the most decorated American soldiers of World War II. Many people say that he was the most. A lot of people say. I'll leave a little thing in the liner notes about that. His nickname was the Ghost. He was born in Buffalo and he died in Holland, Michigan. There's a drug rehab center dedicated to him in Buffalo, I believe. His father was Stanley. So, of course, I've said this a million times. Everybody knows Audie Murphy, and he does deserve a lot of praise. And also, he helped in the war effort or the post-war effort, if you will, by being an actor and so forth. But to my dismay, there's no appreciation of the greatness of Colonel Matt Urban. The amount of medals he achieved was incredible. There's no major publishing company to do a book on him. As I mentioned, there's no postage stamp. So there's Audie Murphy got a Medal of Honor that made him the most decorated, but then later on in the 80s from President Carter, Urban got his. So you could really start a big argument over who's the most decorated. How political it is. It is. There's a lot of people who think Urban is the most decorated, certainly is of a higher rank. And he was a boxer. In any case, I've said it a million times, even if Audie was the most decorated, why don't you know the number 2? I personally don't think he was, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Don't want to make another fight between me and my Irish brothers. Irish-American brothers. But let's face it, they're even kind of forgetting Audie Murphy. And what's up with that? His plane went down. I've mentioned that before. That's a topic for another time. The Ghost is the most decorated infantry officer that you've never heard of. Gonna put that in the chat. Anybody in here? Got 2 listeners jumping in. So it's disturbing to me that Matt Urban is not more well known. I've done some YouTubes on him and rapped about him, and people from his family and friends have gotten on and said hi. And that there was a struggle to, I don't even know if they still got the bridge named after him in Michigan. Going to do a full YouTube for Matt Urban again soon. Next is relatively not well known, is Francis Gabby Gobretsky. American pilot. The most kills in the European theater. Polish-American career pilot in the U.S. Air Force, Francis Stanislaw Gobretsky. I am, of course, Stanislaw. He was a top American and United States Air Force fighter ace over Europe during World War II and a jet fighter ace in the Air Force in the Korean War. Although best known for his credited destruction of 34 and a half aircraft in aerial combat and being one of only 7 U.S. combat pilots to become an ace in 2 wars, Gobretsky was one of the Air Force's most accomplished leaders. Indeed. Now, he's fairly well known if you're into the fighter pilot stuff, so more people know him. He's gotten a little more recognition and notoriety. Why is somebody of Polish-American descent so hungry for some credit and notoriety for his brothers? Interesting that I need to be. People delight in pointing out little details. I have nothing against Audie Murphy. I've got nothing against Pappy Boyington, who's a well-known indigenous person, an American Indian. But he did get his TV show, Baa Black Sheep. There is not much, if at all, attention placed on Francis Gabby Gobretsky. Let's face it. How you doing, Islam? I am. I'm Polish. Yes, yes, yes. I have respect for Islam, but I am Polish Christian type. I apologize. But hope you're doing good over there, Waleed. Talking about the Polish Americans. Giving my 2 cents about how my guys have been left behind and marginalized. In particular for their contribution in World War II, my brother. And again, I talked to I communicated with the post office about postage stamp for Gobretsky, and he's been featured partially on one or something. Not to any great extent. Again, there's much more Bugs Bunnies and Minnie Mouse and, Uh, Very wild that he also served in Korea as a jet fighter pilot. Very wild. Amazing pilot. He also had some leadership positions. Gabby did in the Air Force. Nice. You're going to be a pilot. Cool. Um, so, and then there's some, he also had a lot of kills in Korea. They were dealing with the honchos, tremendous Russian pilots. They're having a hard time in Korea, so they called in guys like Gabretsky to deal with it. Continuing on, I've done some things about this. The Gabretsky went to serve with the Polish fighter pilots in the Battle of Britain, I believe. Not exactly, maybe not the Battle of Britain, but in the many air wars that they had. That was a movie about the 303 Squadron in 2018. I mentioned before. Quote unquote Chief Marshal Sir Ur Dowling said, had it not been for the magnificent material contributed by Polish squadrons in their unsurpassed gallantry, wrote Chief Air Marshal Sir Ur Dowling, head of the RAF Fighter Command, I hesitate to say that the outcome of the Battle of Britain would not have been the same. It's probably this is the technically the best fighter squadron of World War II when you take a look at everything. I don't know. War Thunder. Okay, that's the name of the game. Okay. I don't do. I haven't. I don't really do video games, my friend. But maybe I should get into them. A lot of people like them. Although now I guess the society is opening up again. So be trying to go outside. Anyway, the 303. That was a movie. The 303 Squadron became the most successful fighter command unit in the Battle of Britain, shooting down 126 German airplanes in only 42 days. So there was a Czech Sergeant Joseph Framatich. also of the 303. There was a wise guy who came out and goes, and there was a Czech guy. Oh, Czech. I mean, he was a Czech guy in the Polish squadron. Dare I mention the similarities between the two peoples? That's another matter. The best squadron of World War II was well, a German one. Let's face it, they shot down an amazing amount of planes against the Soviets, but of the Allies, shall we say the good guys, is the 303 Squadron, and the toughest air war of the war, to my mind, or the most sophisticated, the toughest, was the Battle of Britain, the air war over there. Uh, Polish people. Well, they're very Roman Catholic and very ethical. I suppose if you're speaking in raw terms, they're strict like Islam. Not they're against abortion. Not popular in the Western world today, I guess, for their strict conservatism. Although there's a lot of modern people there that have the more modern ways. Uh, yeah, the more old ways, the traditional that makes them a target in a sense politically. As anybody who's of, shall we say, conservative values in the Middle East or the West or anywhere now, it's very complicated. But if you square off against, shall we say, modernity, you're going to get tension. This is already a controversial YouTube, so I'm talking to Waleed about the image of the. That's not everybody of the Polish. I mean, many of them are the modern thinking people. I'm not here to judge either way, but I'd say they have that reputation. Too many people from Poland died in World War II, though. You could say that. You could definitely say that. Compared to Americans, I would say the Poles are more traditional, more conservative, and they butt heads. There's actually movies of Gran Torino. Clint Eastwood portrays an aging, older Polish American guy. So they're known for that. And being left behind in World War II, they're not popular in that sense. Complaining about being killed at the Kachin Forest, the Poles are just not. Generally, they run up afoul of the literati. Literati. the the hip, the modern, the wealthy, or whatever, the fashionable, the cosmopolitan, the goody goodies. But you talk about Islam. The Islamic world is huge, right? I mean, there's different types, right? I mean, I've heard Saudi Arabia at the Hajj, and it's materialistic and something like that. And then Iranian is a different type of Islam, and there's another type of Islam. There's Wahhabism. There's the Shia versus the Sunni, right? Um, Poland and Hungary are kind of at loggerheads against the system. The Economist magazine, for instance, will dress down Poland and Hungary being against immigration, migration. Vince Vaughn or something. Ah, oop. I don't even know what that one is, my brother. So people don't talk openly about this stuff, but I'm on here complaining about the Polish contribution, Polish American contribution being ignored. Okay. Yep, I'll do the best I can, my friend. I'll check that out. So, and if you're going on the detail who shot down the most planes, of course, it was a German guy. Erich Hartmann. Shot down. He's got 352 kills. But I'm not here to distract. I'm just saying, World War II, people don't really look at the details. People don't remember Gabretsky. No postage stamp for Gabretsky. The next part of World War II to be not looked into was the Katyn massacre. And I've been told that that's not the only one. Katyn massacre was a series of mass executions of nearly 22,000 Polish military officers and intelligentsia carried out by the Soviet Union, specifically the NKVD. It was approved by the Soviet Politburo and Joseph Stalin. What they mean by the officers and the intelligentsia is indeed they assassinated all the intelligent people. This event is very unknown in the States and perhaps a little more known in Britain. I'll be going into this another time, but it's, again, people forget. Okay, Wally, take care, man. Um, and this is just not very much discussed, and this is not this 22,000 killed in this one is not the only this is not the only time. Um, this happened. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. There were other events like this, and the Germans assassinated the intelligentsia on the part of Poland that they invaded. So you had both the major powers of Germany and Russia invading Poland, not just the Germans. Let's be clear here. I think that our history over here just likes to mention that part. What can I say? Unfortunately, they weren't the only ones. Kachin Forest. Next part. was the fact that the largest exile army was, if you just Google largest exile army World War II, you get the Polish contribution to World War II. They had the largest exile army, but this is forgotten. I mean, to be fair, every country's careful of what they do. And how they portray history. So the United States, I mean, really isn't. I mean, in some instances, they're really not that keen to delve into what you might call the Polish part of it. We'll go more into depth about this soon. Large exile force. Unknown. They also fought as exile fighters under the Soviets in the worst of the war. The worst battles happened in the Soviet Union. Anyway, this is part one. Hopefully, this was of help to somebody, and I'm going to be going into this again and again once in a while. Hooking up. So if you're Polish and Polish American, I don't know, get on these social media sites and talk this stuff up. Do the best you can. I've got a book review on a book that is more realistic and favorable and normal and favorable about the code breaking aspect. Coming soon. Talk to you guys later. God bless.